You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everyone, the remake of Carrie is coming out in theaters this week, and you know what that means.
Pig's Blood is coming back in fashion.
Also, another episode of Don't F With the Original with...
Nicholas, I'm the video correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. By now you should know the drill, folks. There's a remake coming out, we dig up the original, and we discuss it to near death.
Indeed.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and we're damn acceptable at it.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who don't know, Carrie is a 1976 Brian De Palma film based on a Stephen King story.
Really?
Oh, you didn't know that?
Nope.
Yeah, Stephen King wrote that.
Actually,
it's one of the better stories.
Okay, was it just a short story or a big novel thing?
It's a novel.
Good to know.
So the story, essentially, we open with young Carrie, played by Cece Spacek. She's awkward. She's being bullied by her peers.
Yes.
Like, really harsh.
I know.
And most of it comes from the fact that she is really awkward and sheltered because her mom's really, really, really loopy.
Yes.
She's like this sort of like ultra-religious nutbag. And the movie essentially follows Carrie as she gets a date for the prom and builds slowly towards prom night where people are trying to get back at her for...
being weird?
Yeah, for existing, essentially.
I guess, yeah, pretty much.
That's where the movie gets most of its tension. It's just like the days before that prom until the prom where it's sort of like a ticking bomb, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot. Also, she has telekinetic powers. That's sort of important.
It started really weird, first of all, you know. You see them playing volleyball, then Carrie misses the ball, and then the game's over, and everybody's angry at her for missing the ball. I was like, is that how gym class ends? If somebody misses the ball, gym class ends. And then, really gratuitous shower scene with everybody there. I was like, am I watching Carrie or Carrie XXX here? What is this?
It does feel like a softcore movie at the beginning.
I know.
Like, it has like that sort of like dreamy 1970s penthouse feel to it. Where the light's a bit oversaturated, and like the little music from like the classic French Emmanuelle movies as she's taking a shower and rubbing the soap between her legs, and you're like, that's an interesting take, Brian De Palma.
I know, so it's like this is am I watching the right movie here? Did I buy the wrong thing?
But at the same time, I get what he's setting up, because he's setting up this sort of moment of serenity for her. Like, the music is very serene for her. You get the sense that the shower is making her feel better after a shitty period. Yeah. Not the literal period, but the class of, like, bad volleyball game.
Yeah.
And, you know, and all of that falls apart when she starts bleeding from her vagina.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what's going on because she hasn't been raised with sex ed because her mother's a crazy religious
Actually, her mother thinks that if you get a period, it's because you're wicked. You know.
Well, no, she thinks woman is wicked, so she understands that period is the beginning to womanhood, and since woman is wicked, that means you're going to become wicked.
Okay.
She has a book that's like Sins of Woman.
I know, and she was basically hitting Carrie with the book, but it really made me feel like, you know, if you know, until you don't have a period, you're fine. You know, and now that you have your period, you know, if you had been fine your whole life, you would not be having your period now. You know, it's now there's something wrong with you now because you start having your period, so you did something wrong. You are now wicked.
Yeah, she hates women a lot. We'll get back to that in a bit because I think that's a common theme in the movie about hatred of women. But it gets you into Carrie's skin, whereas like, oh, this is sort of serene, and it's like, all right, it's sort of dreamy. That's nice. I was like, and then blood comes up. What the hell? You know?
Yeah.
And of course, because we know what a period is, they couldn't have just shown it straight, and then she has her period. Because her reaction was like, oh, she's having her period.
Yeah.
Whereas if like it's all like a dream softcore porn movie, you're like, no, okay, cute music, and then there's blood, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And at least it gets you a little bit into her skin by doing that.
Okay. Yeah.
And another way to take it as well is also the idea of like womanhood being presented in the penthouse sort of way, like almost literally.
Yes, I
In
guess.
that sort of objectification, as like you see gratuitous boob shots, you see her rubbing herself in this erotic way when really she's just taking a shower. Let's all calm the hell down from her perspective, at least.
Pretty much.
And then the reality of womanhood kicking in, as in, well, she has her period.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing that, you don't see in Penthouse magazine. Like, there's not, like, Miss January with blood dripping down her legs, you know what I mean? But it's the reality of womanhood sort of, like, hitting you like a brick.
Yeah.
So there's two ways of taking it, so...
And then the whole class making fun of you for having your period.
Oh, man, they're so mean about it. They're psychotic.
Yeah. Just throwing stuff at you in the shower, and they're just still pounding her with. I'm like, oh my god, leave the poor girl alone. You feel terrible for her.
I really do. You mentioned her mother hitting her with the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing about the Carrie movie that made me laugh. Everybody's slapping everyone in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, the gym teacher is slapping two students. She slaps Carrie and she slaps Nancy Allen's character.
Yeah.
Nancy Allen, who would later become RoboCop's partner, by the way. And...
Oh, wow. Interesting.
The mother slaps people. Like, everybody's slapping everybody. Like, John Travolta. John Travolta is in this movie. He plays Nancy Allen's boyfriend.
Slaps his girlfriend. Girlfriend slaps him.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Did he really, There was this thing about hitting people, I guess.
And it's a little bit hilarious.
Yeah, I guess, because they're not really strong slaps, too. They're actor slaps, but they're very bad actor slaps, so you really don't feel like there's a lot of, weight behind them. So it's basically like, you playfully hitting a kid. It's like, come on, what was that? Seriously.
At the same time, if I were Nancy Allen and John Travolta was, like, slapping me... And, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, she was being a snot. Yeah. But, like, if I were being a snot like her, and the first time my boyfriend would hit me, I'd be like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Like, that is it. Done.
It goes both ways. If my girlfriend hits me, it's like, yeah, you better have a really good reason, like, we're having sex or something. Because if not, I'm out of here. No, it kind of, it's ridiculous. It's like people... Especially that couple, it's like they hate each other, but they're still together. It's really weird. I guess she likes him because he's cool and he has this car, and there's really no other attraction besides that.
Or maybe, like, he is sort of a mean bastard. Like, he does end up killing a pig in cold blood. Like, that's really weird.
Yes.
And, like, I'm not saying a butcher is mean. Like, that's his job. But, like, this dude is like, yeah, let's go kill a pig. Like, that should affect you more. Like, he's a little bit... messed up. And
for no reason as well, because you can buy pig's blood if you want to. So, completely pointless, killing a pig scene.
Yeah, actually, I would have liked to see the draining part. Like, how did they figure out how to drain the pig afterwards? Because they get into, like, this fuel tank, essentially, little bucket thing. Like, those things are small, the opening for it. Like, how did they, like... Did he, like, put a tube into the pig and then, like, start sucking and then put the thing into it?
I guess so, It's like, like you empty a pool the same way, Just a little tube there. It makes perfect sense for a pig.
And what we're saying is that John Travolta is gross.
Yeah, pretty much.
in the movie.
In real life, too. Kidding. It was a cheap shot for nothing. I actually thought, those girls that were really mean to Carrie, they got off so easy. Their detention was going to gym class for like a couple of,
What is it, a week?
A week of gym class, extra gym class. It's like, some people have killed for that, in our high school. It's like...
totally.
Detention kind of sucks, It's like, no, you just have to, get healthy. That's your punishment. Get healthy. And it was like, no, we can't do this. It's like, it's just gym class. Deal with it, girl. Come on.
Yeah, no, and considering how mean they are. Like, the opening scene is really shocking how mean they are. In a believable way, that's the thing, too.
I know.
In movies, I find one of the big problems that they portray bullying so over the top that you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
No, this one, like, no, you could see kids actually doing that.
You could see just one starting it and everybody else, that was funny. Let's just get back in and just being super mean without realizing it. I could totally see that. And yet they were really, terrible. One girl realized it, then she's like, yeah, we kind of deserve this,
The idea is that the girls are all revolted at the idea that she doesn't know what a period is. Like, she doesn't know what menstruating is. Yeah. And that makes her so stupid and worthy of all of that harassment.
Yeah.
And I think what changes one girl's mind is that she gets to see what Carrie's mother is like.
Yes.
And that gives her an explanation, and she goes like, oh, I really dogpiled the wrong kid. And you make a good point also about the punishment being very light.
Yeah.
But I think that's intentional because the gym teacher actually does say that, like, if it were up to me, it'd be way more severe.
Yeah.
But the administration won't take this seriously. And I think that rings true as well.
Yeah.
Like, just the conversation Carrie has with the principal, who can't bother to learn her name because he doesn't even take the problem seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like just like, oh, he has many students, why would he remember the name? No, it's like, you read the name once, you can remember it, but he just doesn't care because he doesn't understand that a period for a woman can be traumatic if you don't know what it is. For God's sakes, like, you're bleeding from a place you didn't know you could bleed from. That's Carrie.
And also bullying is pretty bad, but, you know, until recently, it's the, you know, law of the jungle at school, you know, there's going to be bullied and, bullies, and that's how it is. So you can totally see that as being, you know, what's your problem today?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about Carrie. Essentially, the drama that is not supernatural is A, predominant, and B, very, very human, very well done. It's engaging. I actually gave a shit. I was like, oh, I hope Carrie gets away from, like, the prank. Like, I hope it ends up well for her. And I felt genuinely tense toward the prom night because I knew the prank was coming, even though, like, it's a prank, you know?
Yeah. And even though, you know, she gets invited to the prom by that girl that, you know, takes pity on her, she asks her boyfriend to ask Carrie out at the prom. And, you know, you still have in the back of your mind, you know, are they in on the prank? You know, are they, what's happening? You know, she just pretend to be nice to her so that, you know, she gets to go to the prom and that happens, or, you know.
And they really build that suspense really well. Like, because they leave out key information so that you really have no idea until the prank actually happens, whether or not that girl is in on it.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things I found interesting as well is it also works as sort of a feminist story, which I found interesting. Because you start with that objectification image of women, then you have the reality of womanhood kicking in. All the girls turn on her for it. And then the man who's responsible for the school can't take it seriously because it's a fucking women problem.
Yeah.
You have the gym teacher who's a woman, which at the time, very rare. I mean, like, actually, even when we grew up, which is considerably later than when this takes place, women gym teachers, not common. So the one good influence in Carrie's life is this woman who's going against gender type.
Yeah.
And then she comes home and her mother is all about woman is a sin. Like, she's the ultra-conservative viewpoint. And it's like, you're a sinner because you dared to be a woman.
Yeah.
Like, she actually literally has a book that says Sins of Woman. And then at the end, it all leads to a moment in the movie where essentially the same thing happens. The prank involves her bleeding in a way,
pretty much,
again, and people turning on her again. And if you look at it like from a purely symbolic standpoint, what are they turning on her for originally? For turning into a woman.
Yeah.
Like having your period, that's what it is. So it's really the idea of like, you're fucked if you're a woman. And like, she has all this untapped potential illustrated through the fact that she has telekinetic power. She could literally do anything she sets her mind to. Okay. And everybody turns on her, and she lives this tragedy. Like, this person ends up being erased from existence, if you will. Okay. At the end, and her only sin throughout the entire movie is just having a vagina.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. You didn't see it that way. Yeah. I mean, we might go into little spoilers, you know.
Well, we have to with this movie.
Basically, what happens at the end is that the prank is her being dumped with a bucket of pig's blood. Mm. And now everybody at the prom laughs at her, because, you know, that's what people do when they see a prank. And then she uses her telekinetic ability to douse everybody with water, and that causes a short circuit. And that causes a big fire in the gym. And basically everybody but her and the people who prank her die in the fire. Then the people who try to prank her trying to run her over, and she kills them with telekinesis again.
Unintentionally. Because they tried to run over, I think she turned around as I think it's self-preservation that kicked in.
And then she gets the revenge on her mother as well, you know.
Again, not intentionally.
Yeah, that's one thing. The whole telekinesis thing, you know, it's, you know, how could you have her do all of that unintentionally if she didn't have those weird powers? So I guess, you know, the telekinesis, I think there was that thing that didn't really fit for me in the movie. But, I mean, the way you explained it, it is, okay, it's a way of her having I guess, her revenge or, protecting herself unintentionally, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think it's to really heighten the stakes to a supernatural level to sort of hammer down the message of the tragedy. Because that's what it is. It's because she comes so close. Like, she's finally liberating herself from her mother in a very mature way, too. Like, she's not being mean to her mother or anything, but she's like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
There are these boundaries. I'm going to the prom. There's nothing you can do to stop me. I love you, Mommy. Yeah. Like, it's about as mature as you can expect from a teenager.
Pretty
from an
much.
abused teenager, no
Yes,
less.
indeed.
And, and at the prom, her date actually starts to really like her for real.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to because she's so honestly vulnerable. And it's really well played. Like, first of all, Cece Spacek plays that role super well.
Yeah.
She's so good in it. And I love little bits like, when she's in the car with her date and he gets out and, like, she's about to open the door to get out herself. And then she remembers, oh, like, right, I'm on a date. I'm going to step back into the car, close the door, and wait for him to open the door for me. Yeah. And it's so cute. Like, it's hard not to really like Carrie with little moments like that. She's so visibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And he starts to like her and all of that. And, the prank, somebody almost stops the prank, and there's two people looking out for her, and they end up working against one another, and that's how the prank still manages to happen.
Yeah.
Like, she came so close, and that's what makes it such a tragedy. So when you add the telekinetic powers, the tragedy becomes, mass murder.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it really hammers down the point,
Yeah. I don't know, however, how that, can translate into modern times, with the whole bullying thing and, people snapping.
Yeah.
Because, people might misunderstand this and, saying, okay, well, she's just getting revenge on people who are laughing at her. Which could be easily seen from this movie,
Yeah.
So now, what do you do in this day and age, So a little kid get bullied in class, what he does, he comes back with an AK-47 and shoots everybody,
But even if it is intentional, clearly the movie doesn't approve of what she's doing. It's not like the movie comes off as like, yay, mass murder. I think it's very clear from the setting of the movie, not least because they make a point of putting her very nice date, who was well-meaning, out of commission early on, and people trying to save him, and her actions keep him from being saved. Yeah. So even if you don't feel for her, which you really should, but at the same point, at the point where she's killing people, it's hard to feel for her.
Yeah.
You should feel for him. So it's clearly a tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to a certain degree, if you go back to the feminist metaphor, like, if when you extinguish this emblem of woman, if you will, everybody loses. It's not just the woman that loses.
Okay.
Everybody pays for it.
That's interesting.
So you can see it that way. And I mean, like, I also see it that way for the real life tragedies, to be honest, to a certain degree, like, where, look, those kids that are pushed to their limit, and there's that impulse, I can understand how it happened without approving of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Of course you shouldn't do that.
No, you should. Is the
Like,
thing.
it's
But,
crazy. But that doesn't change the fact that they were victimized before they got victimized to the point that they turned into, they did something monstrous.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a delicate balance. I totally agree with you, but I don't think it's an impossible balance.
Okay.
I mean, even Carrie, too, managed to keep a little bit of that spirit, of the correct spirit.
They made a Carrie 2?
Yeah, back in the 1990s.
Was it any good?
Well, I think I would have liked it more if they had called it a remake of Carrie than a sequel, because it was like the same fucking story.
Okay. So this Carrie is the second remake of Carrie. Nice.
You will, yeah.
Interesting.
But they mixed it with goth culture a little bit more, her telekinesis and all of that. Like,
okay.
So there was an effort to sort of adapt that unhinged empowerment to the culture of the 90s.
Yeah. Whereas in the first one, she does try and research through telekinesis and stuff like that. Actually, that goes absolutely nowhere. She just has telekinesis at one point. You just accept it. That's where it is.
Well, it works for the metaphor. I agree. It doesn't really work for the plot. It's like, oh, I have telekinesis. I've read the word telekinesis, and you're like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, pretty much.
But in terms of her empowerment, it works though, because like she has these things, and then she realizes what these things are.
Okay.
And she gets it through education, which she's not being granted.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
So.
Okay. I guess that brings us to the remake, and
Yeah, one of the things I wonder about the remake is if they can pull it off, because a lot of it, of the original Carrie, I think is celebrated because of Brian De Palma. I think his visual style
okay,
is something. It's very peculiar when you watch Carrie, first of all. Like, there's a lot of shots of, like we mentioned, the penthouse pornography moment.
yeah,
And he has a lot of experimental shots that, to me, really enhance the movie from just a standard horror fare. Like, for example, there's this beautiful thing where she's talking to her date, and while they're dancing, and the camera's spinning around them as they're spinning, and it's just, like, you get dizzy watching it after a while.
yeah,
But at the same time, it helps me understand where she's at emotionally, where all of this is so overwhelming. Like, her life is just turning out well all of a sudden, that she herself is dizzy by it. She herself feels like she's losing control, but in a sort of pleasant way, and the world's spinning around her instead of her spinning around it, if you will.
okay,
And those beautiful shots like that are interesting. Or the shot just before the prank
yeah,
is a slow motion shot with the same music as when she was taking a shower, so getting you back to that mindset. And it's one shot that goes from Carrie and her date sitting at their table being announced as winners of Prom Queen, Prom King.
yeah,
Track slowly to where they'll be walking, and then you see Nancy Allen and John Travolta hiding behind the stage where they'll be able to pour the pig's blood by pulling a cord.
yeah,
And then it follows the cord onto the girl that is actually being nice to Carrie, just coming in and watching from behind. And then the shot, all one shot, goes up all the way to the bucket, and from the bucket then focuses on the teacher, who you expect might be doing something or not. So essentially, it's setting up the entire geography of who the players are and what they might be able to do or not do, all in one slow tracking shot. It's beautiful, it's ambitious, and it communicates things in such a peculiar way, because it's a simple shot that tells you, okay, game's on.
exactly.
This
It doesn't
is
have to say anything, you know. It's like, I am waiting here to pull the cord. You just know everything as it's happening. That's well put.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think that the remake can do stuff like that? You think
It can, but it's not easy, because that's true artistry.
Okay.
Like, you can't take any schlockmeister and just go, like, make a movie at that level,
okay,
is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they won't necessarily pull it off. I'm just saying the game is a little bit harder than remaking something like Prom Night, for example.
okay. And you think they're just gonna, now since it's a big theme, they might just focus more on just the bullying and not the feminism part of it all?
I think that's a really good question, because bullying is the in thing.
Yeah.
So
Not that it's a wrong thing to be, worried about. Bullying is terrible, and you shouldn't be worried about it. But
but it is a hot topic du jour, so it is likely to get more attention. I think that you bring up an excellent point.
it makes me worried and brings me back to an earlier topic. If you make it too much about bullying, when Carrie, I don't know if she's gonna have telekinetic powers or whatever in this movie.
Oh, well, she has to. I think it's integral to the story.
When she goes crazy and she snaps, how do you not see this as just somebody snapping from bullying and not just wanting revenge on the bullies?
Yeah, although even if she did just want revenge on the bullies, as long as you don't film it in a way that celebrates it, you still have a viable story there.
Okay.
Because it's still a tragedy. Like, you have like this girl that could have turned out well and then turns out into a murderer. Sad day for everyone.
That's a good point.
From the previews, from the trailer, we see that the carnage extends far beyond just the school.
Okay.
It looks like she's taking down the entire village.
Oh my God, was she bullied by the whole village? I swear that's terrible.
Well, she doesn't have to be, right? If she explodes emotionally,
that's true.
It's like a bomb.
That is true.
And the injustice of not the people being involved paying for it helps the tragedy. So
that's true.
So at least it seems to go in a direction where it's not a case of a simple revenge tale that they're going to tell. Because if she's taking down the entire village, I dare hope that the movie acknowledges that it's not the entire village that's responsible for what's happening to her.
Doesn't it take a village to raise a child? So maybe they did a very crummy job altogether. And she's... No, you're right. It's probably just her losing I hope they just don't use Carrie because she has telekinesis, and that's the only thing they use in the movie. That'd just be bad, just for name recognition, you know. Yeah. Carrie, people know Carrie. People will come and see it because she has telekinesis, and you know they use nothing at all. That'd be terrible.
All right, so I think their answer to that is pretty obvious, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. Do you think it's gonna fuck with the original, or that it should? The second part is the obvious part.
It's probably gonna fuck with the original.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it should a little bit. I mean, it should change the theme to be more in following with the fact that it's 2013. So you know, change the feminism a little bit more about bullying. But again, I'm very scared that it's just gonna be some, you know, Carrie's the monster kind of movie, and you know, the nice girl that was in the original Carrie is pretty much the one that's gonna be surviving at the end because she stops Carrie somehow. You know, that's going to be the ending of the movie. Mark my words. What about you?
I have a little bit more hope for it than you do. I think because bullying is such a hot topic, I think producers are likely to be more sensitive to that part of the story, and less likely to fuck it up.
Yeah, if they fuck it up, I could see the press being all over that. You are right.
Yeah. It's too Columbine-y for people not to notice the resemblance of the final scene, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, it's not the same. Instead of a machine gun, she's massacring people with her telekinetic powers. Like, who are you fooling? You know, like, so
she's using mind bullets. It's a real bullets.
Exactly. So I think they're going to be more aware of that, so that gives me hope that the movie's going to be a lot better than the remake of Last House to the Left, for example.
Yeah, it'd be kind of gross, you know, just, you know, her burning out the gym and just walking out with a giant smile and, you know, like, and just, you know, thumbs up to the camera.
As to whether or not it should mess with the original, I'm actually a bit more conservative than you are. I think they should really stick to the spirit of the original thoroughly. I think our difference of opinion comes from the fact that you sort of like, you appreciate the original movie.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, I heartily recommend it. I think it actually transcends the genre to a certain level, and I hate to use that word, and I'm already hating myself for using that word. But
which word?
Transcend. But what I mean by that is that non-horror fans are more likely to appreciate this movie than another classic horror movie.
Okay.
I think it's a movie that's much more accessible for non-fans, and so if you want to dip your toes into the horror genre, but you're more into psychological drama, characters, and whatnot, I think Carrie's a great place to start.
Okay.
So, and for that reason alone, I think I'm more enthusiastic to see a remake because it would be great to have another movie like that for another generation.
All right. Makes sense.
All right. So on that note, if you have any questions, comments, you want to share with us why Carrie is horrible. Like, I don't know why I'm always like, you want to do the opposite of what we just said.
Or you want to give us a little bit some positivity here, and you know.
Yeah. I'm always inviting the trolls. Is what I'm doing is the weirdest thing.
Hey, we feed on trolls.
Yeah, they say don't feed the troll, we feed on the trolls.
Exactly. Go ahead, troll us, we dare you.
You can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. Just click on the episode name. And we're also on Twitter, we're also on iTunes, we're also on Facebook. If you could like us on Facebook, we would so appreciate it. It helps us get the support to continue to provide content for you. And if you don't like us on Facebook, I will have no choice but to spend the next half hour throwing tampons at Nick.
I might use a few of those. You never know.
See you next time.